Welcome in, welcome in. Week 6 is upon us. We are chugging along here throughout the season. Before you know it, I'll be making a Thanksgiving Day slate video because that's how fast the season is moving here. Welcome in. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. If you're not new here and you've watched this for the last 7 years I've done these videos, hit that like button as well. Shout out to you guys watching and listening. You guys have been showing crazy love this year. I really appreciate it. We've hit over 100 likes on every single video thus far, so please hit that like button. Let's keep that streak going, and let's get 100 likes on every video I post this year. Coming off a interesting week 5, week 5 was another slate for me where I felt like I was on all the right plays, and I just didn't string together a big score once again. If you read my article or you tuned into the stream on Sunday morning, I absolutely loved the Jags Colts game, which went crazy. Like I was all over Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr., Josh Downs, had them in my lineups, didn't have anything substantial around them. I was all over Joe Burrow stacks. He led the league in passing yards last week. He threw for almost 400 yards, had a bunch of touchdowns. Obviously, Chase, T. Higgins, like I was on that and just didn't have the right stuff around it once again. And once again, made a dumb decision in my cash lineup in terms of a 2v2. I've ran as cold on 2v2s as I've ran in my entire life. So I do feel like it's positive because I'm due for some regression there, but it upsets you when you just make a dumb, decision when you're looking back. So that was unfortunate, but overall, like I didn't have anything towards the top of the leaderboards, but I cashed enough in my tournaments. It wasn't a terrible Sunday for me. But then Monday, if you guys subscribe, dfskarma.com/pricing, I post cores for the main slate. Usually I play the afternoon and the early slate, both showdown slates. Absolutely destroyed the showdown slate on Monday night. Shout out to Juju Smith-Schuster. Low owned. Played him. I was in one of the smaller $33 tournaments. It was like a 250 person field. Took second place in that. And obviously it cashed every other contest I was in. So shout out to Juju Smith-Schuster. Huge Monday, made up for everything. So I was actually well ahead for week 5 as a whole, but I'd love to get back on track with the main team on the main slate. With that being said, let's dive in. Week 6, we have another 10-game slate. Like last week, we have international game, bye weeks, the primetime games. So just a 10-game slate here. But like last week, there's some pretty good games. Like last week was the smallest slate we'd had all season, but the highest amount of high total games. That's kind of the same situation here. We have a 48 total between the Cardinals and Packers. We've got a 51.5 between the Commanders and Ravens. And we've got a 52.5 between the Lions and Cowboys. That's not to mention, a 46.5 there between the Panthers and Falcons. Like there's some good games. And even like Titans Colts is a low total 43, but we've kind of seen how the Colts have, forced teams to play fast, and we've seen max play volume for their opponents this year. So, even that game could end up, a little higher scoring than that total that's on. So pretty good games despite it being a 10-game slate. For some reason I'm on tight end. Let's get to quarterback here and let's build a first look lineup. At the top, we've got Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels squaring off. I mean, just an absolute electric factory of a game. In my opinion, the Ravens are the best team in the NFL right now. Like, I don't even think it's close. I think it's the Chiefs are the Chiefs. I'm not talking about, who I think is going to win the Super Bowl or whatever. I'm just saying, like, as of right now on field, I think the Ravens are the best team. And I think there's a gap between them and everyone else. Like, this team is absolutely awesome. They had some fluky stuff early season with just bad clock management from John Harbaugh, and they lost a couple games because of it. But I mean, they're an Isaiah Likely toe from being, having one more win and a win over the Chiefs. I think this team's awesome. So this game is super fun, high total. Jaden Daniels has been amazing as well. Like once again last week, just monster game. 21 DraftKings points. And I mean, they were kind of game scripted out because the Browns are just an utter disaster. Like, I'm pretty sure the Commanders scored 3 rushing touchdowns in this game. 2 or 3. Like, I know McNichols had one and Robinson had at least one. So I think Robinson had 2 and McNichols had one off the top of my head. So, I mean, he had 20 despite that. Like, just really could have had a huge game. He's been awesome. Lamar's been awesome. And the Ravens have been awesome. Like, this is such a fun game. So I think that's where most people's attention is going to go on the slate. Obviously, they're pretty expensive, 73 and 7,800, but I think that you'll be able to get up to them if you want. This kind of is weird because I like earlier this season, I was talking about how it's probably going to be better to spend down at quarterback for a few weeks, but this is the one week I'm definitely interested in. The higher priced quarterbacks, both those guys in that game, and I love the Ravens in this game. I think that it's not selling the Commanders like, because Jane Daniels has been completely awesome. It's just the fact that if you look at the last 2 weeks for the Commanders defense, like, they've given up basically nothing. And I don't think that that's going to continue. Like, I still think they're the top defense that you want to attack. And, they just caught a bad game from Kyler Murray. And then the Browns are as big of a disaster as you could have in the entire league right now. So I think Lamar could really have a big game here. And it's probably going to depend, honestly, on game script. I don't know. We'll see. But love both those guys. Probably going to put one of them in my first look lineup here. You also have Hurts here at 7,200. Good spot for him. Browns play super man heavy on defense. Man defense, good for running quarterback. So it could be a ceiling spot here for Hurts in terms of his usage with his legs. But at the same time, they're 10-point favorites or whatever they are. Yeah, I don't have any faith in the Browns being in this game. So that could also, kind of hurt things. CJ Stroud, 7K. I mean, tougher spot for him on the road in a worse game. Like, the total on this game's 38 points, and he doesn't have Nico Collins now. So yeah, that would probably remove him from my consideration there. And Hurts is like firmly behind these top two. So I think for cash, we're looking at these top two guys here, Lamar and Daniels. And then moving down, Kyler Murray in a high total game against the Packers looks fine to me. Dak Prescott at home here against the Lions. Lions have had issues with coverage once again. We've seen them giving up some big games to opposing quarterbacks this year. Dak has been so good this year. Like, he gets people just, I don't know why, man. Like, this has never made sense to me. If you've followed me at all, the two people I've always defended that just get unwarranted hate are Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins. Like, people just used to shit on Kirk Cousins for years, despite him he put up respectable, good numbers every single year of his career. Look at what he did in Washington, a completely dysfunctional organization when he was there. He still put up crazy numbers every year. Did the same thing in Minnesota, right? Like, yeah, they haven't won a Super Bowl or anything, but who's been winning Super Bowls other than Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, right? Like, really nobody. So, and I think Dak's in that same boat. People like to kind of come at him for this contract. Like, I don't know why. Like, there's no worse just like sports jawboning take than talking about quarterback contracts. Like, every single quarterback that gets paid is going to become the highest paid quarterback. Like, Dak Prescott will not be the highest paid quarterback in like 2 years. I don't know why people get all up in arms about that either. But regardless, for fantasy, he's been awesome at home. We saw him have a 32.8 here at home against Baltimore. This game against New Orleans was weird. Like, I'm willing to just throw it out. If we look at last year and then one of his 2 games at home this year, like, really, really good at home. So he's got great home splits, great game, great matchup. Dak Prescott, 6,700. I'm definitely interested here for sure. And then you have Jordan Love there as well. I'd throw him in consideration as well. That's really the main quarterback pool for me. These two at the top and Lamar and Daniels. Dak Prescott at 6,700. Kyler and Love to a lesser extent. I'd put them below Dak personally, given the prices. Don't really like any of these cheap guys this week. We don't know if Anthony Richardson is going to start or not. We'll get that news later on in the week. I mean, you have Fields here, but I really don't know what you get with that 700 difference. I'd rather just take the 900 or whatever and get up to Dak. Personally, the one thing I will bring up though, I do not think, well, it's basically been confirmed Derek Carr is going to be out for this game, but we saw Jake Hayner come in for him on Monday night. I do not think Jake Hayner will start this football game. I think Spencer Rattler is going to start, and he's $4,000 on DraftKings. I don't know kind of what that will do for cash. Like, will people play Spencer Rattler in cash? I don't know. Probably. I'll have to think about it. Regardless, I will be interested in Spencer Rattler for tournaments. Like, anytime we get a minimum priced quarterback, which is not often, like that maybe happens once or twice a season. You get a $4,000 quarterback. And Spencer Rattler, I mean, he wasn't great at times in college, but he looked good in the preseason. He has like pedigree. Like, this guy was supposed to be a number one pick at one time in his college career. He has a big arm. I don't know. Like, I'll have to wait and see. I guess, like, if he is confirmed starting, like, maybe you could just make an insane lineup with him. So maybe he will be a cash play, but I'm interested in him for tournaments. We'll see on cash. I'm not going to put him in the first look lineup because we don't know if he's actually starting, but I would be pretty surprised if he doesn't start for the Saints. I'll say that. But for the first look lineup, oh man, do I want to do Dak or Lamar? I'll come back to quarterback. Let's see like how much money we have, because I'm gonna put one of Lamar or Dak in the first look lineup. So moving on to running back, two good plays at the top here, Barkley and Henry. Probably not gonna make my cash pool, but I like them a lot. Barkley, Cleveland's really struggled to defend the edge and kind of stop teams from running on them this year. I think Philly will be able to exploit that. He's a big home favorite. Good spot for Saquon Barkley. Same for Derrick Henry. He's been awesome basically ever since week one. He had 16 DraftKings points last week, and that was with the Ravens running play action passes from the 1 or 2 yard line 2 more times in that game. So he had a touchdown, easily could have had 2 or 3, and he got tackled, at like the 10-yard line with on that play in overtime. Like, he could have housed that. So I mean, it could have just been a nuclear game for Derrick Henry. The Ravens are touchdown favorites here. Like, yeah, I'm interested in both those guys at the top, but probably not for cash. Dropping down to the mid tier, which is where I think people will be going. Bijan Robinson, 6,600 against the Panthers. Say what you want about his usage. I don't know. The fact of the matter is he's going to project absolutely insane here at 6,600 against the Panthers, and he's going to go in the first look lineup. Like, whether or not you want to play chalk Bijan in tournaments, I don't know. We could talk about that later on in the week, but for now, early week, $6,600. Yeah, you're going to put him in the first look. What's absolutely insane, can you imagine if before the season someone told you Chuba Hubbard and Bijan Robinson would be separated by $300 on a main slate? Like, that's kind of where we're at, though. So I think Jonathan Brooks is not going to be back this week. So I think Chuba's in play again at 6,300. You have Brian Robinson here, against the Ravens. Like, that's probably a little thin for cash, more of a tournament play. Ramondre Stevenson, shout out. I was the first person. You can't convince me. You cannot convince me otherwise. I was the first person to be on Ramondre Stevenson last week. I made that video. Then the news came out that they were going to quote unquote bench him. I wrote in my article, like, I didn't believe it. I still liked him as a tournament play. 19 DraftKings points and scored a touchdown. Shout out to Ramondre Stevenson, man. 6,100 at home against Houston. Probably not going to play him, but just shout out to the fact that I was on that in the video last week. Josh Jacobs at home against Arizona is interesting to me. I like him, and I like Tony Pollard at home against the Colts at 6K. So that's kind of I'm looking at this 6K for running back right now. I don't see anyone below that I'm really interested in. Like, Najee's just been, oh my God, I can't with this guy, Najee Harris, man. I just can't. I'm pretty sure he leads the league in touches without scoring a touchdown, which is just not shocking at all. And I'm just so sick of watching him run for 2.5 yards. I don't know. I'm just sick of it, dude. I'm sick of Najee Harris. I'm not playing him. I'm tired of it. You have Rashad and Bucky here in the 5K tier. I'm interested. Javonte Williams is there as well. I don't know. It's tough to run on the Chargers. Like, that was a big point of emphasis with Harbaugh coming in. Like, he plays old school hard-nosed football and he doesn't want to get ran on. So I don't know. I just don't love anything in this 5K tier. So I'm going to plug Bijan in. I'm going to plug Tony Pollard in. That's going to be the 2 running backs. For the first look, moving on to receivers, CD and St. Brown in the same game at the top. Great spot for both of them. I mean, we know CD goes hand in hand with Dak of having really good splits at home. And we know Detroit has struggled in coverage. Like, I love both these guys at the top. Nico Collins is out this week. So that's going to give us a bump for Stephon Diggs. I think Tank Dell is going to play, obviously. They have Tank Dell and Hutchinson to play outside. So I think they'll keep Stephon Diggs mostly in the slot. Tank Dell's probably going to be on Christian Gonzalez. I really don't weight wide receiver cornerback matchups that heavily. If you watch these videos a lot, you know that. But, I do know Christian Gonzalez will shadow, and he's been pretty good. So I would lean Diggs if I was going to play a Houston guy, in cash. I think both Philly receivers will be back as well this week. Mike Evans against New Orleans. I need to bring this up. Man, Mike Evans has been one of my favorite players throughout his career. I loved him. I was in high school when he was at Texas A&M with Johnny Manziel. I loved that team. I loved him at Texas A&M. I've loved him. I'm a big Jameis Winston fan. Like, I loved those years that Jameis was there in Tampa, just slinging the ball around the yard to Mike Evans and, Vincent Jackson and all those guys. Like, man, it's been awesome to see Mike Evans' career. Like, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, so that's good. But at the same time, it makes me sad because this is probably going to be one of the last times we get a Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore civil war. Like, this could be the last season. And one of them could get hurt. Like, this could potentially be the last Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore civil war that we ever get. And that makes me sad. So I'll be watching that game for sure. I mean, I watch every game, but, we need to appreciate the Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore civil war because this could be the last one that we get. Moving on down, though, the Green Bay guys, I don't think Christian Watson will play, so all of them are back in play for me. But we do have Romeo Doubs come back in the fold. So we'll see kind of how they project. Jaden Reed would be my favorite just because he's the best receiver that they have. And, I mean, he got tackled at like the 2 on that long pass last week. Easily could have had 20 DraftKings points. He's top 30 in 2 of 3 games that Love has played this year. Like, even at 7K, I think Jaden Reed is in a good spot here. Chris Godwin, same scenario. Drake London, 6,700, man. Like, this feels too cheap. I don't know. Like, I really loved how Atlanta's been using him recently. They completely kind of transformed. The first few weeks, he was not being used that well. And I guess really just the first week, but kind of in this Philly game too. Ever since then, he's been awesome. They've increased his first read target percentage. They've kind of increased different ways that they've been using him. Coming off that huge game against Tampa, like, he easily could crush Carolina here. Atlanta's got a 26.5 team total, like one of the better team totals on the slate. So I think you could play Bijan and Drake London together. I'm going to put Drake London in at 6,700. I think that's too cheap, to be quite honest with you. We got Michael Pittman here and Josh Downs. Like, it's going to depend on who plays quarterback for the Colts of whether or not I'm interested in those guys. So that's a wait and see later on in the week. Jameson Williams, I'm interested in. Really good game. He's been awesome this year. And I've loved his role. I've loved how they've used him. So, yeah, Jameson Williams at 5,800 is definitely in cash game consideration for me. Darnell Mooney, I'm not going to play 3 Falcons, but, yeah, he's certainly in play. Who would we play between Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks? I mean, Wicks did nothing last week, dropped several long passes. Romeo Doubs, maybe a squeaky wheel after, that whole situation. Like, I don't know. How do we think that's going to play out? I would probably, honestly, I might be in on some Romeo Doubs in tournaments this week. We also have Jalen Tolbert here at 5K. I'm a big Jalen Tolbert fan. I don't know. Like, I was talking about him. I think we took a long shot bet on him to win Rookie of the Year's rookie season. It's taken him some time to get rolling here, but they've been able to showcase him a little bit with Brandon Cooks being hurt. He's had some pretty big games this year. Obviously, scored that winning touchdown last week. Like, I like Jalen Tolbert. I like his price. I'm going to put him in at 5K, the first look lineup. I don't really see any cheap guys that I like. Trey Tucker without Devontae Adams again, 4,200. Sure, maybe you could talk me into that. But I'm going to plug in Drake London and Jalen Tolbert, and then we'll come back because I want to see how much salary we're playing with here. Let's go to defense actually too. Let's put a cheap defense in. Titans at home against the Colts, I guess. Oh, Patriots at home. I know it's against Houston, but yeah, we'll just plug them in at 2,400. Okay. All right, so we got defense plugged in, and we have 2 running backs, Bijan and Pollard, 2 receivers, London and Tolbert. 5,800 per position. That's going to go up a good amount once we plug in a tight end. So let's do that, and then we'll fill out the rest of this lineup. So at the top of tight end, we have all these 5K guys, Ferguson, Goddard, Laporta, McBride, Bowers. All are great plays. Not going to play any of them in cash. Bowers finally scored a touchdown last week, so shout out to him. Tucker Kraft absolutely smashed as chalk last week. This dude had 25 DraftKings points as chalk. 25 for a tight end is like scoring 60. And I was joking in my group chat with some people, like, because it's just how it goes. Like, every week, somehow, the just chalk plays, they just find ways to get there every single week. So don't be shocked if Tucker Kraft is 5% owned for the rest of the season and does not score another touchdown. But of course, the 1 week he's 60% owned, he just absolutely nukes. Like, that's just how it happens. I don't know. I can't explain it, but I'm not playing him at 4,800. I guess we have to play Mark Andrews now. I don't know. The role still is not great. Like, don't get it twisted. He had 9.5 DraftKings points. The role in terms of him blocking versus running routes still is not great. He was wide open in the end zone and Lamar missed him. So I guess he could have had like 16 DraftKings points last week. I don't know. I mean, he's 3,900, whatever. I hate this position. I'm sick of playing tight ends, to be quite honest with you. So whatever. We'll just put Mark Andrews in at 3,900. All right. So we've got 6,400 per position. We need a quarterback, a receiver, and a flex. Let's go back to receiver here. I like Lamb. I like St. Brown. I like Godwin. The problem with this is there's no other really running back I want to play. I guess we could play Chuba Hubbard too. Let's go Jameson Williams in this lineup. Okay, so now we have 68. So if we go Dak, we would have 6,900. Nice price tag there for the flex. If we go Lamar, we'd have 58. Yeah, I don't love this range, to be quite honest. So I think we'll go Dak. All right. Man, I don't know. It might be Spencer Rattler. I'm going to be quite honest with you guys. Like, could you imagine that? Let's just do it just for fun. Here, let's just take a look here. Where's he at? Am I blind? Okay. Spencer Rattler in. Oh, my Lord. Okay. Let's take Jameson Williams out. Oh, my God. This is stupid. We could play... Man, we could play like Chris Godwin and CeeDee Lamb. Oh, wait, no, we couldn't. We play St. Brown. We could play CeeDee and Josh Jacobs. I don't know. It might be Spencer Rattler, I'll be quite honest with you. If he gets confirmed starting, I might just YOLO it. But for right now, let's put Dak in. First look lineup, Dak Prescott, Bijan Robinson, Tony Pollard, Drake London, Jalen Tolbert, Jameson Williams, Mark Andrews, and the Patriots defense gives you 6,900. Really nice price tag there for the flex. If you made it to the end of the video, shout out to you. Thank you. Like the video. Let's get to 100 likes again. Good luck in your week 6 contests, and I'll see everybody on the Sunday morning stream.